So let me start with the number one thing that I learned over the years that I stay away from is somebody that comes in for the interview and they tell me,
in today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Rachel and Dale Earp to discuss how they have built an agency of over 2,000 agents. We're going to dive into recruiting and branding and how to separate yourself from the crowd and also what to be looking for in the best talent. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we're very excited about our guests today, Dale and Rachel Earp. How are y'all?
We are awesome.
what's going on, guys?
So good to be here.
We are so excited to have y'all on because you guys have a team of over 2,000 agents, and so you work with a ton of agents across the country. And I'm just going to dive right in.
Let's kick it off.
All right,
Let's
so
go.
Let's talk about recruiting. Every single agent I know is always trying to find top talent for their business. So I'd love to pose that question to you all with having over 2,000 agents on your team. I'm sure you've recruited thousands. What are you doing to recruit in today's times to make your opportunity look amazing and attract the top talent that people want?
I would say that it all comes down to a brand, being out there in the community. There's a famous quote, I forget who said it. It's a sales guru, though. It's see the people. The more people you see, the more people you're going to be in front of, the more people know who you are and what you do, the more they're going to want to be involved with what you do.
Yeah, and I would say too, like it's super important to think outside the box. With traditional recruiting, if you're following, a lot of those traditional models, sometimes that can actually keep you from recognizing talent in people and giving them that opportunity. And when people see something that makes sense for them, that feels like it's not going to completely drain their bank account or be an impossible, overwhelming thing to learn, because in the insurance industry, there's a lot involved. You have to get licensed, you go through a lot of education. If sales is not supernatural to you, then that is a whole other thing that you feel like you have to conquer. So it's really important to break it down and make it simple and approachable for people, and not feeling like you have to follow all of the same methods of recruiting that everyone else does. So for us, what's worked really well is not running, tons of interviews off of, LinkedIn or a lot of Indeed posts or things like that.
ZipRecruiter.
Are just, you see them everywhere. They're like a dime a dozen, and people are like, well, they all sound the same. But actually working to just build relationships with people and teaching our brokers and our team to do the same. So we set up people that do recruiting. They'll work events or career fairs, job fairs even, going out into networking groups and saying, hey, have you ever thought about this opportunity? Broker managers, we make sure that we're all on the same page because we're better together. And when you can have that unity, you have such a bigger impact.
So I want to go back to the branding, and then I want to unpack recruiting a little bit. So let's go with the branding. And you say get out and see the people. When you talk about branding, if somebody is listening to this right now and majority of what they are talking about or speaking about in person and on their socials is their carriers, what advice would you give to somebody who is trying to make the pivot into branding themselves? Where would they start?
I love that question so much.
Yep. Do you want to start?
I don't want to chomp at the bit, but okay. So first off, I always advise, please do not lead into it with carriers, because even though that does establish validity, and of course you want people to know who you partner with, most of the time people really don't care about that as much as who you are and what values that you represent and what you can bring to them. So if all you're focusing on is the products that you write and the carriers that you represent, that gets, first off, very boring really very quickly. It's hard to develop a following that way. Instead, if you can lead with other things that bring them value besides just insurance, but showing people how you actually participate in the community, going to events, showing up at nonprofit organizations, giving back, giving them useful tools and education like, hey, did you guys know that there's other resources besides this that shows you're not all about making a quick dollar and that you actually care about them. That in itself, if you can learn to master that, if you can really be concise with your message and figure out, well, what does make me different? And that was something that when I first started, I learned, like, hey, why would somebody open the door for me? Why would somebody take my phone call? And I always led in it, hey, I'm a former teacher, so here, if that paints a picture of who I am. I love to teach. I love to educate. I'm not here to try to sell you on something. I'm here to give you options. People felt like, oh, they know what a teacher is. Like, they know, okay, they picture you in a classroom teaching children, and they feel like those walls can come down a little bit. And if that's not your background, like, you want to tell them your background a little bit? Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking too much.
A lot
No,
of people
you're not.
a lot of people go into branding and they get it's very complicated, and I'm not book smart, no college education or anything, so I have to look at things in a simple manner. So I just look at what do people, like, if I'm knocking at a door, what do they see? That's your brand, it's your culture, it's who you are and what you represent, where you're at, where your office is, who you're helping, your audience, and that type of thing. What carriers you're working with. You don't want to label yourself with one carrier, especially if you're working with multiple carriers. If you're captive, they're still going to go after you, not the carrier.
Absolutely.
So there's, how many commercials are out there for all the different insurance companies with all their brands, their logos. Yeah, that's known and seen, but at the end of the day, they're going to actually want the servicing and all the stuff from you.
And you have to tell the story. Like, I think that is so valuable, no matter what industry you're in, is you have to tell the story. So if it's a client that you have helped recently, tell the story. If there's a reason and whatever your why is, tell the story. If there's a particular demographic of people that you help, if you help people who are on Medicare and Medicaid or a certain income level or a certain product that you really know most people gravitate towards, you need to tell the story and paint that picture for them, because that's what creates the needs very naturally, and it doesn't feel salesy when you're just showing up and being consistent and telling that story. And that all ties into branding. A lot of people think branding is a logo, it's what you wear, even though all those things are important. Be professional about it. You need a website, you need to have a social media that's not
Presence.
all your personal, who you had cocktails with the other night, and you need to keep it professional, but mix in who you are, because if all people know you is just she does insurance, but I don't really know what she does, but I do know she loves dogs, or she loves to visit all the local coffee shops when she travels, or she has such a fun, exciting personality, and she always shares these funny quotes about being a mom and working at the same time. People can relate to that. And even though they might not need you right at the beginning, when they see, I like her, I like him because he resonates with me. I love dogs too. Finding those things that you can relate to will make a huge impact.
Oh, I could bite the microphone.
You're speaking our language right
excited right now. I
Yeah.
get so excited because marketing, especially on social media, is about showing, not telling.
Yes.
So how can you, whatever thing that you're trying to convey, how can you show that? How can you paint that picture, to Rachel, your point exactly, to where somebody goes, oh, I have that too, or I'm like that too. They can see themselves in you.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these different things where we connect as human beings. And when we start connecting, then we start building that level of trust. So I love that you're bringing this up.
You don't have a lot of time either.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
You have to do it quick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in today's age, what you're hitting on is establishing human connection
Yes.
through the internet, through whatever that's going to allow you to establish commonalities to build that like, no, trust factor, which I believe in today's age, when consumers have the lowest loyalty to brands that they've ever had,
Yeah.
we as insurance professionals have to remember that they're not doing business with the carrier, they're doing business with you. When they have a problem, they want to deal with you. When they have a claim, they're going to call your office. And so how can you build a brand to get people to know you, like you, trust you, that's just not insurance focused, but like you said, you have kids, you have dogs, you like coffee, you like wine, you love to travel. Like, what is your brand?
I am so up on this because I'm seeing this shift happen where, and I'm looking at it through the lens of presence And I'm seeing a shift happen to where we're valuing less brands and celebrities, and we're valuing more authentic, organic people that we can relate to.
Absolutely.
Like the
So
more
good.
relatable you are to the specific person that you are trying to attract, the more power and presence you have on social media. Something that I've recently been playing with, and I haven't even told you this. So this is Dale, Rachel, thank you so much for coming to our
Breaking news.
breaking news.
Breaking news on the insurance buzz. Here we go.
Duh, from
We
a
need one of
marketing
those horns.
standpoint.
Woo!
Yeah, where's the horn?
Here it is.
There it is.
So I've recently been playing with this idea of the outcome of marketing being an emotion. So when I go in to create a post or a video or whatever, instead of leading with what's the call to action, what's the thing that I want them to do, now I'm playing with the idea of how do I want them to feel? Because anchoring into that feeling, for me, I've found provides bigger value, bigger result, and a bigger reach versus just share this with a friend, tag, whatever. Now
Right.
I'm really leaning into looking at it starting from, do I want them to be excited? Do I want them to be inspired? Do I want them to say, oh, I agree one way or I disagree? Like I'm now doing more emotion-led marketing versus outcome of like share, call to action, thing like that.
So powerful.
I was going to say, so that's typically when we're training agents, especially in the life insurance industry. It's an emotional sale. That's literally you're basing it off of the emotions of the client and how much do they need, how much coverage do they need, who are they covering? It's all emotions. So I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Every sale's emotional. Even the property and casualty, where consumers think that it's all the same thing because that's what they've been preached to for the last 25 years from the Geicos of the world, when in all reality, we know as professionals that if you're not carrying the right limits, if you don't have an umbrella, if you don't have the right protection in place when something happens, you're going to be devastated financially for a significant amount of time.
Oh, okay. So this is like real world. I've never done this on the podcast before, but I'm actually like writing a post in my head as we're going through this, because to your point, it's a very simple post of like, picture this. You pull up to your driveway right now, and the worst thing that could possibly happen is happening. Your house is on fire. What then? Like, if you start going into that, who's the first person you call? What's the thing that you
Right.
grab? All of this stuff. Oh, okay. I love this so much. This is how
So
my brain works
true.
too. Like, I start creating marketing content.
It's
We go
when
off.
you start to think and pull those stories out and pull those emotions out. One of the things that actually was a true life experience for me, that back when it happened, I didn't know would end up setting, like I would use it so many times in my life. But when our second son was born, he they helicoptered him to another state, to the NICU, to a children's hospital. And we found out then that he had Down syndrome and all of these things that were happening all at once. Well, I had him in the middle of a snowstorm. We were up in New York at the time. My husband, right after he was born, I was like, go home. Like, you still had companies to run. Take a rest, take a nap. You're exhausted. This is fine. We didn't know anything at the time. The one time he actually put his phone on Do Not Disturb. It was crazy. I could not reach him. A team of doctors had come in and they were like, we're really sorry, but your son has had a seizure and we need to life flight him to another hospital. So I'm like trying to get a hold of my husband. I'm there by myself. We had no family local to us in the area. And I ended up staying at the Ronald McDonald House for 2 weeks while he was in the NICU because the hospital that they sent him to was 3.5 hours away. So then at the time, not like just feeling so grateful for this place that I could be near my baby and I was safe and I felt that I could just fall into bed and rest at the end of the night. Fast forward, we ended up working with one of our main carriers that actually that's one of the main things that they support as they're giving back is the Ronald McDonald House. So when I would sit down with clients, even though it's not always easy for me to tell that story because it is a very emotional time in my life, but I can tell them like, hey, like I'm proud to be able to mention and offer this product to you and check out one of the ways that they give back. Because when you can paint that picture and tell that story and the emotions behind it, they're like, wow, you know, not only is this great for me, but I feel like I'm doing something for humanity, and this actually does make a difference and touch lives. And that's just one story. You know, we all have those stories and those reasons, or even if it's something that a client tells you, you know, that's where you, once again, going back to the branding, that does everything for you.
I love this so much. All right, I'm going to hop off branding because I could do this all day, every day. We could carry this into the evening. I would bring in more sound effects. We'd let her rip. I want to go back to the recruiting piece, and I am so curious because you've recruited so many people, you've had so many conversations. Are there some top traits that you can easily go, this person's going to make it, or this person is not going to make it? I would love to hear kind of a little bit of both. Of like,
So let me start with the number one thing that I learned over the years that I stay away from is somebody that comes in for the interview and they tell me, it's kind of like the same concept as a bully. They're the big tough guy. They have to keep talking about being tough and being tough. It's the guys that come in and I'm this, I could sell this, I could sell salt to a slug and all these different things. They're typically the people that I literally say, I don't think this is for you. Just because they're the type of people that they're typically lying about who they are and what they're doing. And they just sit there and just talk about themselves constantly. And that's typically it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
So you recruit them, you bring them on, and you bring them as part of your team and stuff, your culture, and they never blend right. So that's where I would start, kind of like reverse what you asked the question.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
And too, like a lot of times those people, they might be doing like maybe they do legit could sell, you know, salt to a slug. It's just,
I've never heard that, but
song, right?
yeah,
Salt to a slug, raid to a bug.
oh my goodness, yeah, don't get him started. That Philly boy is gonna come out of him real quick. But
should we give him a beat? Like,
So don't start. I have to start doing it now.
He won't be able to sit here anymore, and we're gonna have to redo. Yeah, but yeah, the reason we say that too is a lot of those times people that work like that don't do things in an ethical manner, or they make it a very approach where it's just about the numbers. And then, well, how does your business, is it sustainable? Does your business stay on the books? What's your retention rate? And you find a pattern a lot of times with these people when all they're doing is bragging about all their numbers, but they have a very low retention rate. People talk very badly about their reputation because they are very coercive, or they have practices that you really shouldn't have in this industry. You really should care about people in this industry because insurance is a big deal, whether it's home or auto or life or Medicare or health. It's one of the biggest decisions that you're going to make. And the last thing you want is to feel like somebody came at you and looked at you with a dollar sign. Yeah. And so when we recognize those types of personalities, we actually avoid bringing them into our team because in the long run, it's going to create just a lot of problems. So that's definitely a red flag for us that we avoid. But she did ask what we look for. So,
some of the traits: somebody that's coachable, somebody that actually listens to you. They're not just sitting there talking about themselves. I mean, like I said, it goes both ways.
What else?
We've been through a lot of interviews. We've never gotten the system down. I know people do like. What is it, the ACE test? They do different tests and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We've never really done that. We started doing that with staff a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. A doctor's office actually handed us a test and said, here, use this. I don't even know what it's called, but it's kind of goofy and it asks specific questions, and it's weird because it ends up being that type of person that we're looking for. But honestly, just going through and just feeling comfortable with them, that you can actually envision them sitting with, like, to say your grandma or your mom and dad, and actually seeing them take care of them, or what kind of traits do they have in front of you, because you only have, it's a 20-minute interview. So where are you going with that? Another thing that we've done is as far as systems, I don't know if that's part of this question, if you guys want to know the systems.
It is, let it rip. Yep.
I used to do the interviews all myself, and it's once again, it gets into burnout, but at the same time, I have to kind of vet everybody that's coming into the organization because it's my name on the company. It's our name on the company. One thing that we did was we started actually doing multiple interviews where we would start with a group interview, and you see how everybody actually acts together as a group. Mm-hmm. And then because if it's part of your team, you're actually interacting with them as a team now. And we ask them to do certain things. Hey, could you grab another cup of coffee for Bob here? Like, get somebody else to do certain things, and you see how they interact. Mm-hmm. But basically starting with a group interview and then going to an individual, whether it's me or one of my staff members, Rachel's done them in the past. and just finding out how I click with them, what I like about them, their good character traits and stuff like that, and then just seeing it from somebody else's perspective. Because I might have built big companies and stuff, but I still make a lot of mistakes with staff, a lot of mistakes with recruits that come on board, and I think they're great for us, and they're not.
And then, too, giving them something to follow through with
Yes.
tells you a lot about that person. So we would always give them, at the end of the interview, okay, can you email me tonight this, this, and this? Like, tell me why you think that, give them a question or something that they have to kind of think through. And really sadly, the majority of people that we would interview, none of them would respond. And it's like, okay, we're not going to waste our time with these people, because they can't even follow through one simple task.
Hurdles before hiring. That's one
Yeah.
thing we always did with and we still do this today.
Yeah.
So if we interview somebody, if they get to the one-on-one interview stage, like group interviews, that's how we've went to group interviews to really narrow down the talent. But when it comes to those one-on-one interviews, we never are going to offer anyone a position right there. It's always, hey, if you haven't heard from me by 5 days down the road, follow up with me. Because if you're not going to follow up with me for a job, you sure as shit ain't going to follow up with a prospect for the business.
right.
So
Absolutely.
It's really true.
He's so hardcore about this. Like, we'll have neighborhood kids coming to our door trying to sell us candy bars, and he's like, "Hey,
Follow up
come
from-
back in 2 hours, and I'll have the money for you." And he'll be
I
like,
like it.
I love
I like
it.
it.
Yes.
and if they don't come back, or if they're late, or if they come, a different day, and he's like, "I said 2 hours."
Yep.
And then
Teach
the
'em.
one,
Teach 'em.
oh my gosh, there was one kid. I mean, he was so spot on. It would have been child labor. We could not have hired him, but we would have hired him. We bought so much freaking chocolate. I think we spent like $1,000 because this kid was so professional. He was on it. And now he's thriving. I mean, he's an adult. I'm pretty sure he
Right.
went into sales. Like,
fortune
that's
is
where
in the
he
follow
went.
up.
I'm like,
And
you should
I'm
go
for
there.
real. Like, if you're talking about an opportunity to someone for your team and they're not excited enough to follow up with you for
right.
that opportunity,
Yep.
I would bet 9 out of 10 times they are not going to make it longer than 3 to 6 months down the road in sales, specifically insurance sales, because this is not an easy industry.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It is hard. It is something that you really, really have to want, and that why behind it. And so I agree with you. I'm not gonna go on another rant, but put hurdles in your hiring process that put the decision in that individual to where they have to follow up with you or do something that shows you that they have the action to back what they're telling you.
Ooh, and
Yes.
that is the theme for this whole episode has been show, don't tell. Don't tell me
Yeah.
how great of a salesperson you are, show me. Don't tell me
Yeah.
how
Right.
great your customer service is, show me. Don't tell me things, show me things. Like, oh, I love this
So
so
good.
much.
So speaking of showing, that's another thing that I do is proof of production. The number one thing that I have is have somebody sitting in front of me and they're like, "Oh, I'm the best salesman. Oh, I can sell anything." And when they act like they sell stuff or they lie and they say stuff, and proof of production shows physically what they've actually written. So I always ask for proof of production, and when they start getting all nervous and everything, what do you mean? What do you mean? This probably isn't for you.
Yeah. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
I know.
No. Well, I don't know where would I get my proof of production? Well, here, log into the website. It's an insurance company that we work with. Just
Yeah.
log in. It'll have the report. Oh, I don't have my login. I can't get into that. Okay. Well, if you don't know where they don't know the website, they don't know how to get in. There's a problem.
Yeah.
You have to lead too by example, and we always tell agents when they get to that one-on-one interview, when it's more personal, we tell them like we have been in the trenches, so we're not coming to you from a place of oh, I just happen to graduate with a degree in sales, and now all of a sudden I got licensed, and I'm going to teach you all about insurance, but I've never sold anything. We're coming to you we've done this, been from the very beginning where we started at our dining room table, we grew, we recruited, we've, figured out systems to help prevent you from having the frustrations that we had. And when they can see too, they're going to either clash with you and try to tell you, how you should run your company, or, oh, well, I've already done all of that. And it's like, well, if you've already done all of that, where's your teams?
Yeah.
Where's your company? Where's where's the proof? You're obviously here because you need help. And that's what we're here to do is help, but we can't help you if you don't want to be helped. It's simple as that.
Amen. If you are hiring a producer from another company, or maybe even within the same company you represent, proof of production is an absolute must, hands down. Like if you're going to hire somebody that's already in sales and specifically insurance, you want to see their production. And if they're afraid to show you their production, that should be a giant red flag.
Yeah. Yep. Amen.
I just had this vision of like running around with a red flag. Like, no, don't hire this person.
All right.
Yep.
Del and Rachel, this has been fantastic.
So much
if
fun.
somebody
We've
wanted
enjoyed this
to
so much.
follow you, connect with you, potentially work with you all, what's the best way to do that?
Okay, so mine I would say is I am Dale Earp. I actually forgot it for a second. I am Dale Earp, so it's @ I am Dale Earp on Instagram. Funny story, Rachel is now I am Rachel Earp on
Yeah, I
Instagram.
decided to join the.
You're in on
Everybody
it.
always, it's like, would always laugh because one of his best marketing tools actually was when he got his Maserati years ago. He had this like custom logo that said "I am Dale Earp" for people to follow him. That was like his magnet driving around, and everybody was like, "You're so pompous and you're so stuck up." But he got so many people that would talk to him because he put the branding on the back of his Maserati.
Just random followers driving to Naples and stuff like that. And
I joined the bandwagon,
me.
and I'm like, "You're so pompous, Dale." But now I did the same thing. So my Instagram is also @I am Rachel Earp. But best way to contact us is to check out our website at Earp Enterprises. Funny story about Earp is he's related to Wyatt Earp. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Wyatt Earp.
Are you kidding me? We're from Kansas City. We've
Rachel,
absolutely heard of
Does
Wyatt
a bear
Earp.
shit in the woods? Yes.
God. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. If you know Wyatt Earp, you know how to spell Earp. But yeah, for real, he's like, there's this whole dynasty thing going on.
My uncle's name is Wyatt. You know, my dad's name's Dale, but his brother's Wyatt, and then my nephew is Wyatt.
Yeah.
So they kept it going.
So it's a big thing. It's like, well, we have to use Earp. So that's where Earp Enterprises came from because of the, like that stuff that they had back in those days. They were so brave and they just had so much tenacity, and we're like, those are some great things that we can incorporate into our company too, and kind of tell that story. So EarpEnterprises.com.
So cool. I'm gonna watch Tombstone tonight.
I know, too.
Like,
Yes,
I'm
so
like,
good.
hey,
And don't
so
remember
good.
Dale and Rachel.
Well, Del and Rachel, speaking of, thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you.
were-
Yeah,
We
we
appreciate
we
it.
appreciate it, and also just appreciate what the space that you guys give for other people to come and share the wisdom and things that they've learned, so that other people out there can feel like, hey, I can relate to that, and give them strength and give them encouragement, which is huge because we live in a very discouraging world. So thank you guys for the space that you've created and for giving us the chance to share our story.
I love that.
Thank you. That means a lot. Appreciate that. For those of you that are tuning in right now, either on the Buzz, on the podcast, or the YouTube, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you very much. And as always, time and attention are by far our most important assets, your most important assets, and we appreciate you spending your valuable time with us today. So other than that, Rachel and Dale, thank you again. Make it great.